Picked the wrong week and quit sniffing glue.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Monday, the start of week 4 on the 2 Voyager build. And the first thing I needed to do was to take care of a omission that I had left off. That's the definition of omission. I had left it off my painting last week. That is these two shapes, the raised shapes that are on the bottom side of the nacelles, not the ones that are on the top. These are also that gray color of the secondary areas of plating that I wanted to call out. So the first thing I had to do was to make a mask and paint those gray. You might have seen that. Made the mask, painted them gray, then I'm covering the gray up, and now I am making using the inside of the mask to protect that gray. So now everybody is good and happy and ready for the light ghost gray slash Lichtenbrau coat that I'm going to put on. And you know, the nice thing about the Voyager that makes it different than most every modern era starship is that we know what color it's supposed to be. This is not a question of you know, trying to discern what the maker's intent was on a 60-year-old model. We don't have to guess. We don't have to hypothesize. We don't have to consult a Ouija board to guess this color, because we have Mr. Rick Sternbach. Mr. Rick Sternbach is one of the very few people in charge of creating the bloody thing. And Mr. Rick Sternbach has said on numerous occasions that light ghost gray is a perfectly acceptable color to use on Voyager, knowing that when it was filmed, they desaturated the color a bit. It is more of a blue gray. It is more of an intense blue gray, but television being the nature of television, it gets desaturated a bit and it comes down to a light ghost gray. And he has officially given the kiss of approval on light ghost gray as the color, and that's good enough for me. And if it's not good enough for you, that's too bad. So what I'm going to do is do a variation of light ghost gray, because I am never one to take orders. What I'm going to do is make a semi-lighter version of light ghost gray. I went around this weekend. I went to my favorite paint hobby store for paints and picked up some light ghost gray. Now to me, it does not make a light ghost gray. They make gull grays, but they don't make ghost grays. They have another color, the sea grays, and those, which I'm sure are equivalent. But I picked up something that said light ghost gray on the label just to be sure. And it's the Mission models that I've used before, the Mission models paints. But I'm going to mix a little bit of white in it and just a drop or two of the light blue in it to kind of keep it in this ballpark. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a light ghosting of the light ghost gray, appropriate, over everything, and just to brighten everything up a little bit and get it out of this coral, not coral, but this tealish color that it is now. So a light coat of this on everything, and then we'll start bringing out some of the color panels. Okay, I don't know how much it shows up on the camera, but these are distinctly a lot purpler than they used to be. They are, we're going to let this gray dry, but that's a bluish ghost gray that is not too far off of the color that is on the box. So we're going to let that, we're going to let these colors dry for a good long while and then come back after lunch. Okay, I'm playing with the hull plating deal on the Voyagers here. I've got the light ghost gray slash blue mixture on it, and I'm happy with that color. I started doing some panel call outs here in a light sea gray, and I'm not liking that color. I think it's a little too warm. What I want is something that's going to bring up the blue a little bit more. So I think what I need to do is, before I get too far into this, is cut my losses and go back and respray that with the light gray mixture and kind of bring that back to where we started out. And then I will use my scrap board, which is what I should have been doing, where I have all of my colors, and I think I need to come up with a good color there and then transfer it to the ship without skipping that vital step of actually being happy with the color before I spray it on there. And then in the end, of course, the solution was obvious. Just use dark ghost gray as your tone, as your accent color over the light ghost gray. It's tough to see in this lighting, but I don't know how well it's showing up on the camera, but in person this is truly glorious. This is just wonderful. It's very, very subtle, which at this scale is perfect. You don't want it to look like a tiger stripe. That's lovely. I'm just going to leave that alone. And it's Tuesday, everybody, and work continues on the Voyager painting. And it's a bit of a difference. It's a bit of a difference in procedure and in custom and in everything else. And I'm having a hard time with it. So forgive me. Normally what I do in a case like this is when I am accenting panels, I tend to over accent them and then blend them back with a top coat. And yes, that's twice the work. But it's what I'm used to. Well, this time I am using the dark. I'm using the dark ghost. Sorry, that's the light ghost gray. I'm using the dark ghost gray as my accent color. That's it, dark ghost. Using that as an accent color and putting it over there, and I'm finding that the difference is very subtle. But it is about what it would be if I were to do my normal, over darken the accents and then come back and blend them. Well, I'm skipping that coat or that process because the color that I'm putting on is a very subtle difference, and it's where I would end up anyway. But it is minus one of the steps that I would take. So I'm having a difficulty because I'm normally used to, as I've said, for the third time now, I'm used to over accenting and then coming back and then wiping some of that off. I'm not doing that this time. This time I am just lightly shading it, and I'm getting some really beautiful results right in here. Some spectacular results. It's just that it's freaking me out in the process because I don't think I'm laying on the shading dark enough. Turns out I am. I'm just not seeing it as I'm putting it down. Okay, I just got done doing a light blending coat over both of the ships, and that was just the light ghost gray and a 50-50 of light ghost gray and white. And that just went over some of the darkest spots that I put down. And I feel much better about being able to tone that back up with the blending coat rather than depending on simply the top coat. I think the blending coats, they do a wonderful thing. They blend, which is, in the name right there. But they also soften some of the harsher lines between the where the masks went down and the underlying colors. You can get awful contrasty, which is a word I like to use, and the blending coat just softens that contrast between those two different shades. At this scale, you wouldn't see a lot of high contrast paint. If this were a larger ship, you might be able to get away with a lot more really harsh lines of high contrast. But that would kind of fade in the distance at this scale, I would think. So those are ready to go. We're going to, I think, hit these with a clear coat or a satin coat. No, not yet. Not yet. I think the next step to do would be to go ahead and paint in the phaser strips. And they are an odd color. They're almost a well, what they call it here is a concrete color, almost a deep gray. I'm going to check some references and see if I like that, because I've seen them brown, I've seen them almost an ochre color, but we're going to see what's going to suit those best. And again, the nice thing about having two Voyagers here to work on is that I can try out some colors and see what works and what doesn't. I tried the desert yellow, it went down okay, and then I thought, let's try this brown and see if it works any better. And I have to tell you, I think I like the brown better than the desert yellow. The desert yellow is mighty close to the color of the lifeboats. That is a factor. It's mighty close to the color of the phaser or the transporter emitters. That is a factor. I think I like that brown better. I think I do like the brown better. Further research is called for. Maybe that brown with a wash over it of a darker color, just to get inside all of the little ridges and stuff. Now, it is a quirk of how the model was made or how the parts were pressed that whether or not these phaser strips seem to be much larger, or they are much larger than these phaser strips. These ones here are much fatter than these ones, so it's going to require two different sizes of masking to get those taken care of. So I'm going to go grab some lunch, come back, and see how everything looks once it's had a time to dry. Now that brown is drying a little darker. I do like that. And of course, once we spray all of this with a clear coat, it is going to accentuate those colors and darken them up a bit, make them a bit richer. So that might take care of the issue that I'm having. Yeah, let me step away from that for a bit and come back. Okay, so I'm getting ready to paint the phaser strips, but the first thing we need to do is to mask the ends of them. So I've got all of these bits that have little semicircles cut out of them, and they're meant to go around the edge. And then what we do after that is that you just take a piece of this straight stock, and you would just line up the sides, and because they have varying lengths, you would just fill in the straight bits that go between the semicircles with straight edge vinyl. And you could use regular painter's tape for this if you wanted to. I am just using that to reinforce the straight edge of the phaser strip. Gotta be careful with those ones that are on the pylons here, because you don't want to get anything down in that pivot point. And let's see, this one needs to go here. Obviously, there's a longer one that needs to go all the way around this belly strip. Now, the longest ones that are in the second or in the primary hull, these ones here are actually already there. They're taken care of by this gray shaped mask that's underneath, so we just only need to mask the end points of that. Let me go ahead and get the belly strip here masked. And these shorter ones, I'm just cutting some straight strips here. Now these ones actually have, these small ones on the fantail actually have a bit of a curve to them. They're not straight. So we might need to just cut a small inset curve for that, or just use a very small piece there. There you go. See, we're just masking the whole thing off by starting with the outsides. Get this on camera here. You start, where am I pointing? Here we go. You start by putting the two sides down, and then you fill in the center bits. Now, these top ones I've got specially cut masks for. I just need to get a set of those ready, and we'll put those down in place. Let me just finish up these. Oops. You know, the devil about this ship is that it is so round and bulbous that it, without landing gear on it, it really is difficult to set it down anywhere without it toppling over. And even with the puny landing gear on it, I don't think you'd have much better luck. Okay, so all I need to do is go ahead and put the long strips on here. Let me go make those now. Okay, I just put the top masks down, and they've already got the curve kind of cooked into them. They're already pre-curved for you. You just have to match it up with the phaser strip itself, and just eyeball it as you're laying it down. Make sure that it's following the correct contour, and then this is almost ready to paint. What I need to do at this point is to take some large masking tape and just kind of, you know, do the perimeter of it. So let's get this masking onto the other ship, and then we'll only have to get the paint out once. Alrighty, I've got the excess tape removed. All I've got left around these masks or around these shapes are the masks themselves, and I'm gonna go ahead and take those off. Now, this is not to say that not the chance that there will be some touch-up needed. That is true most of the time. The idea of these masks is to cut down on the amount of work, not to eliminate it completely. So, yanking these off. Oh, that's coming off nice and clean. And I hope you enjoy this brown that I've chosen. It is a basic brown. It's not a dark brown. It's not a tan. Yeah, that's looking good. Nice and clean. Okay, let's get rid of some of the rest of these. Okay, those are off and lovely and nice and clean. Let me do the bottoms. The last thing I'd like to get accomplished today would be to get the orange painted on these maneuvering thrusters. And I'm not going to make masks for those. Those are strictly straight lines, so we can do what we need to do using plain old either the straight line masks or painter's tape for that. Now here you're seeing the underneath gray mask that I had on from the original, because the inside of that is the contour of the phaser strip, and the outside is the contour of the gray, or the ghost gray body color. That one mask does double duty, so that's why. Making sure you're seeing that. Yeah, see, that's on the one side it's masking the phaser strip, and on the other side it's, yeah, very nice, very nice, very happy with that. Do some cleanup here. The tape is awfully thick, or the paint is awfully thick on that vinyl. There was a build-up there, that's why it looked extra flaky, which is not, by the way, how I like my... Nah, that's an old joke. Skip that. Trying to remove these and be witty at the same time. It's just not worth it. For the last job of the day, I think I am going to take off the remaining gray masking material, the material that's been masking these gray panels that I painted way back at the beginning, because I think the next big step is going to be to put a clear coat on this, and I need to get these masks up before I do that. Everything else from here on in will more than likely be painted by hand and not airbrushed. So I need to get all of, I don't think there's much airbrushing left to do. And you can tell by how much flaking paint is coming off of this vinyl how many coats of paint have gone over top of these. This is the sky gray that I put on right over the primer coat. Some of these panels right in here will be taken care of with decals. But let me see. Now obviously all of this still has a ton of window masking on, and I am leaving the window masks in place. Trying to brush the flaked paint off of there before it has a chance to land back down and stick. I don't want that to happen. Good morning, friends. It is Wednesday, and I don't normally pop up in person here in the middle of a week's reporting, but in the spirit of transparency and keeping myself honest and not wanting to show my mistakes to the, or not being afraid to show my mistakes to the class, I need to inform you of an ugliness. Yesterday, working on the Voyagers, all was going well. It was doing the shading. Shading was going fine. Painted in the phaser strips. Phaser strips went in fine. Painted the orange maneuvering thrusters on the front of the primary hull, and that went fine. And then it all went straight to the nether regions in a handbasket. The last thing I did before turning in for the evening was putting a clear coat. I put a satin clear coat on everything, which is normal. That's what you do. The next steps were going to be, you know, starting to ink in the windows on the opaque version, and on the translucent version, I was going to start getting ready for decals. And to do that, you got to put a gloss coat down. Something happened when I put the gloss coat down, and yes, it's natural to want to find a thing to blame, and if I had to blame anything, it is how the mission model paints reacted to the clear coat. Now, a clear coat is always going to accentuate your color. It's gonna bring up everything. It's going to make the lines crisper. It's going to make things a little bit more contrasty and obvious, and that's kind of, you know, I kind of have that in the back of my mind that that's going to happen. I was not prepared for what was going to happen to the Voyagers. They turned purple on me. That is, I don't know how it looks on camera, what you may think about it, how it looking on camera. That turned purple on me. I don't like this. This is going to call for a complete repaint. It's Wednesday. I know I'm going to start today. I'm going to repaint the entire ship, and I'm not going to touch the other one because I made the same mistake on both. Not going to touch the other one with the that's the one that has all the lighting in it. I picked the one that has only the clear parts. Luckily, the clear parts masks are still in place. Didn't remove those. But the body color is just completely wrong. So I'm going to repaint this, and then once I am happy with that, I will carry those lessons over to the one that has all the lighting in it. I know it's put me back at least 2 days. It's going to put a big old kink. In the time frame, I don't know if I'm going to have time to get everything done this week. Certainly wanted to, but we'll see. And to show you how far off it is, before I bring you down to the table, this is probably the best representation I have of Voyager. This is the Bandai Voyager. This was released oh so many years ago. It was completely pre-painted Bandai kit. The lights have long since gone. I think I need to change the batteries, but they would come back out. This is about the same scale as the round 2 Voyager, and this is the color I am shooting for. This is probably, now the highlights on it are a little bit on the blue side, but this is probably the best representation I have seen of Voyager and its actual colors anywhere. Not the Christmas ornament, not the die-cast stuff, none of it. This is probably the best color. Now when I put this next to my purple Voyager, now this is a little bit larger, so this is probably, if this is 1000 scale, this may be what, 900 scale, I don't know, but it is, that is the true color. So let me pull the camera down onto the table and you can see the oh so glaring difference. Okay, there is the Bandai Voyager. Here is my Voyager. Much of it, I mean, look, there's your difference. That's the difference between the two, and it doesn't get any prettier than this. I am convinced that even if I were to go put a flat coat on top of this, I would never regain the brighter colors that I had yesterday. So this is calling for a complete repaint. I'm going to keep this close by as my inspiration. I'm going to have to go out and get some new paints because I don't think I've got anything on hand that will do the job. What I need to do first is to I need to repaint or protect or mask off the gray areas that I want to keep gray, and then I'm just going to have to hit the whole thing with a lighter coat. Okay, welcome back to, well, not quite square one because we are a bit of the way into the procedure, but welcome back to let's say Monday, when we were last time we were in this particular shape. So what I've got is all of the gray that I wish to keep gray. I've got that masked off. What I've got in the airbrush is a mixture of a couple of mecha colors from Vallejo. And they are white, because that is what's sorely missing, and light gray, which has a bit of a blue tint to it. And now I'm just going to lightly go over top of all of what I've got here. It's not like I have to cover the original primer color. I am just lightening this up. And yes, I am painting over the phaser strips and all of those details that I put in yesterday. Yep, it's going well. Let's see how it finishes out. Now that, my friends, is a much better base color. It is half and half of these two mecha colors from Vallejo. Pure white and light gray. I only hope that I can go find more of it because I still have the other one to paint. But now I'm ready to go with just a light gray. Well, after this dries, I'm ready to go with just the light gray version of that as the accent color. Make sure I've got That's not the one I want. That's the one I want. No, it's not the one I want. I've got all these whites mixed with a little bit of color in it. Yeah, there's the one I've mixed that has a tiny bit of color in it. And I'm going to use that for my shading. I'm spraying it on a sample piece of plastic here just to make sure that there's enough coloration difference in it. And I think what I'd like to do, or what I'd better do before I commit to everything, is put a sample of this on the plastic and then wait for it to dry and then spray it with a clear coat. See if it's gonna change the color like it did that Mission Models stuff. I don't know why. The Mission Models did me very well on the Enterprise E. I don't know why they betrayed me so badly here. Okay, here's a look at the newly painted Voyager next to the Bandai Voyager, and this is actually closer to some of the shading that's happening on this, so I know that may be looking a little blown out here, but we might need to go a little bit whiter on this. Just a nice lighter white, very very fine misting of white on top of that to see. Just to bring out the little bit of difference. Wow, you can really see the difference now between the purple Voyager, or that very cool gray Voyager, and the one that I have just worked on. While this is drying, I can move it off the table and go ahead and put the masks on this, because I know no matter what I do need to mask the gray on this. So let's take care of that now. Okay, so time is of the essence if I'm to get back on track. So I've got this is the second Voyager. This is the one that's got all the lights in it. And I've got the gray areas masked off that I want to keep gray. And I am just loading up the brush with this base coat again. And I am going to just start base coating this. I need all the drying time I can get today to let this dry, and then go back over it and do all of the paneling and fading paint that I did yesterday. And you know, I've always said if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing twice, so you can't be afraid to be so committed to a paint color that you get locked into it and don't recognize when it's just not working and needs to be changed. I've seen many a proud modeler stick with a bad color choice rather than admit to that he or she might need to revise. Nothing wrong with revising your paint color if you realize you are in trouble. The first lesson about getting out of a hole is to stop digging. Okay, I've tried a couple things I didn't like, and I don't know why this thing is whipping my butt so badly, but I'm happy with the base color. Very happy with the base color. What I'm not enjoying and what I'm not finding that I like is the proper color for the shading, the streaking. I tried a gray, just a regular straight gray. It came off too warm and brownish. I tried something that had a hint of the bluish green in there, and that came off looking too intense. Now the model box itself shows the shading to be almost comically blue, and that's not what I want either. So I am struggling right now. Now I've got our monthly model club meeting is tonight over at the hobby shop, so I think what I'm going to do is stop while I'm ahead and regroup over there this evening and pick out some better colors. I've gone online to see what some other folks have been using to paint their Voyagers and getting a lot of good clues from that. I think what I need to do is just back up and punt. Okay, I think I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon doing something I know will work. I'm getting tired of beating my head against this wall. I'm going to step away from it and do something else, which means I want to wire in the power jacks for it. Now, if I had any of these that had a 90-degree turn on them, it would be a different animal, but I don't. So what I'd like to do is take a base. We're going to have to say the switch is right there. Switch is right there. I'm going to run the power out the back. So that's something around in here. I just need to cut a mouse hole right there and then run the wire through and then plug it into this, but this will be attached to one of the side supports here. So let's go ahead and get the cutting tools out, and I'll have the soldering iron warming up while all of that is happening. Okay, after the way today is gone, I'll take my successes where I can find them. It's tough to see because the vinyl is still blocking everything, but yes, you can see the lights coming on. Now I'm actually seeing where a couple of windows have popped off, and that's why I'm going around with the vinyl sheet and putting some windows back where they belong. Still getting a nasty light leak underneath there. I don't know how much of that I'm ever going to be able to completely eradicate, but we will do what we can do. Welcome back. It is Thursday. It is another day. It is another chance to get this right. Now, last night I went over to the hobby shop, picked up every single gray that they had. Based on a couple recommendations I saw people using a color online, I went with the Model Air Russian AF Gray Blue as my accent color, because I'm happy with the base coat, but it's the accent color that was driving me nuts. So I have spent a goodly amount of time this morning cleaning the airbrush, getting it in fighting shape, cleaning it all out. Luckily, this does not take a whole lot of time once you get going, once you get a color you're happy with. So I'm going to start on this again. I've got everything I need to, I feel I have everything I need to get back on the horse, as it were. And let me pull out some of the straight strips that I'm going to need. And let's get to it. Hopefully we can get caught back up to where we were yesterday when all of the ugliness happened. Okay, so we've got the striping done on the top of the Voyager, and I'm happy with it. I can see spots where I might want to go over it with the base coat again and kind of blend it back. It's the problem I had the other day of the accent color not being dramatically different, so it's tough to know how much you're putting on while you're putting it on. The Russian gray that I'm using isn't, it's like, you know, a shade or two off of the original, and it's like I said, it's difficult to tell when you're putting it on. So it does give a nice subtle look. Let me see if I can get a better color balance here. Hold on. See if that's a little better. Maybe you can see the subtleties a little bit better now. But it's there. It's normally what I would end up doing after I blended it back, so like I said, it saves me a step, but it is a little bit hard to go this way from the outset. Okay, I think I'm happy. I think I'm done. At this point, done is better than perfect. I may come back and splash some blending over top of that. I'm going to get the other ship out and get it ready to go, and I'm going to look to see if I can find a darker version of what I'm painting so that I can see it going on better. This is the second Voyager, and you can see the stripes are a lot more pronounced on this, and this is actually the way I prefer it because it's easier for me to see what's going on when I can put them down like this, and then I could take a light blending coat over top of them and soften them back down. It may sound counterintuitive, but this is actually the way I prefer to work. I appreciate it, and then I can take it, wipe it back off, rather than trying to go for getting the right amount the first time. So let me do the bottom of this, and then we'll be ready for the top coating on both Voyagers. Okay, so here you go. I just put the top coat of the Mecha Light Gray and white mixture over top of both ships. Now obviously this one did not take near as much to do because the fading color was lighter to start with. This is the one I just did. It had the darker faded color, or the darker panel accent color, and I was able to bring them both back up to the level of shading that I wanted to do. I still swear by this method. I know it may seem a long way around. It may seem like you're driving 5 miles down the road, turning around and coming back 4 miles, rather than just driving 1 mile that way. With the first version, it's a tortured metaphor, I know, but I would rather have the darker lines and then fade them back up, because it tells me where my paint is going down. When you're dealing with two paint colors that are basically a shade apart, it becomes very difficult to gauge how thick to put on that accent color. So we're going to let both of these dry till after lunch. We're going to come back. We are going to repaint the phaser strips and everything else that we needed to do to catch back up to where we were. And if I can get all the detail stuff painted on today, it's entirely possible that we could do a clear coat and still get back on track to putting decals down tomorrow. Now I know there are a blue million decals. These are all the decals. I mean, the lifeboats alone are gracious plenty. And I still have to pull all the little windows off of here, so I don't know if we'll get done tomorrow or not, but we'll see. But this is looking very good. This is very much like I wanted it to be, and we are going to let these rest for a bit. I think it's time to start painting some of the details on the Voyager, and we're going to start with these two shapes that are on the back of the spine there. And since they are so small, I'm going to go ahead and paint both of them at the same time, so that I only have to get the brush dirty once. I'm just taping off the perimeters now so that I don't splash all over my fabulous hard-won colors that I spent all day on. And since we've got one that's darker than the other, I'm going to start with the lighter one first, and that way I don't have to clean out the airbrush in between. Okay, I just have masked off and I've been painting the top phaser strips. I went ahead, since it's straight paint out of the jar, no special mixing required, I went ahead and painted this one, and rather than tape both of them off, I want to go ahead and get one done, get some color on it, and then I'll do flip this over and do the bottom of it. But yeah, it's going along pretty good. We're picking up speed now. I'm all kinds of happy with that. Got the top phaser strips done on both ships. I realized it was more effective to do the tops and then leave those on the stands, let they dry, and then once it was dry, flip them over and then do the bottoms on both. But I'm real happy with how that looks. Nice clean phaser strips. we're well on the way of getting back on track here. There's still a ton of details to paint in, even before we start putting the decals down. And then pulling out the windows on top of all of that. Let's just try one and see how much fun that's going to be. Yeah. Well, that's not coming off too bad. Okay, now we're going to take a little dental tool here. Try to open those up a bit. Might want to get a sharper one than this. Yeah, that's going to be about as much fun as inking in all those other ones on the other ship are going to be. So, plenty of fun in store. But let's get these guys flipped over. To do that, I have to take them off the stands, which means I need these styrofoam rings again. So we take them off the stands. Trying to leave the metal post in because I can work around it. As a matter of fact, I think I might even want to epoxy those metal posts in place. But you can see we've got these kind of already marked out. This one's all ready to go. This one I have to finish. I also did the little hexagon shapes here. A mask for those. I'll go ahead and take that mask off. And then the next step really will be to take the gray masks off. And then we will truly be back up to speed, because that was as far as we made it before I put the clear coat on. So let's go ahead and get this masked up, this one over here, get this one masked up, and then we can paint the phaser strips on the undersides. Well, here you go, and I couldn't be happier, particularly knowing where I started from. But what we've got here are two Voyagers that are the right shade with the right color phaser strip, and some accent grays underneath there. A little bit, the accent gray is a little dark. That's how, remember, that's what the last paint job looked like. A little dark. I might want to try to mist over that just to lighten that up a tiny bit with some of the light gray. But that'll maybe blend that up a little bit. Lots of little touchy ups here to do. Of course, I've got a ton of work to do with the decals and the windows and all that. I think one last thing to do this evening will be to put the maneuvering thrusters back in, and maybe open up the, well, before I open up the clear parts on the nacelles, I need to make sure I'm done touching up the body color. But yeah, very happy. Great place to stop for now. Morning, everybody. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week. And for those of you who missed it yesterday, when it was Thursday, it would be the gateway to the weekend. But today is Friday. It's the last work day of the week. And I'm reminded of that quote from the classic Trek episode, Arena, where McCoy is watching Kirk build his cannon to fight the Gorn. And he questions Spock. He says, can he do it? Can he do it? And Spock looks at him. Well, Spock doesn't look at him. Spock just has his head steepled in front of him, and he looks at the screen and says, if he has the time, Doctor, if he has the time. And that's where I'm at today. Can I finish this Voyager? If I have the time is where I'm at. Because now is the most dangerous thing of all. I've gone around and I've touched up the paint where I had a little bit of overspill and whatnot. And I need to do that dangerous thing. I need to put a clear coat on this. And this is where it all went blanks up a few days ago. I'm going to put a clear coat on this. I still have the clear parts masked off. But I want to put a clear coat on this because it's decal time. It's decal time, and it's going to be panel line accent color window time for that version. This version, the one that's up on the stand, is also ready for the same treatment. It's ready for a clear coat, and then it's going to be a matter of picking off all of the windows and putting the decals down. So it's gonna be a race to if he has the time, Doctor. So what I want to do is, like I said, I've touched up the paint on this. I want to go through similarly and touch the paint up on this Voyager. And I'm pulling the base off of these because I need to do a separate amount of painting and cleaning to these bases. And then we're going to see how much I can get done today. I've got the usual 19 different things that are struggling to get my attention. So we are going to do some paint touch-up and then take these outside, put a quick spritz of the clear coat on them, and then we're going to start by decaling the bottom side. That way we can flip it over and decal the top. Once I get the bottom decaled, I can put it back on the stand and then flip it over. It's kind of tough to do that the other way around. So let me quick do the touch-up painting, and then we'll be ready to go, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that the clear coat will not cause any uglinesses. Okay, the ships are out on the deck, having been clear coated, and they're drying, and now I need to take the opportunity while that's happening to go ahead and paint up these stands, because they have gotten their share of abuse from overspray while I was painting the rest of it yesterday and the day before. So I'm gonna find out what the devil's going on with that. Gonna give this a nice light sanding, and then I'll look in my mystical closet of spray paint and see what I have to dress these up. I think just a basic black will do. I have to look and see if I've got anything special, but I think a black primer. I need to go ahead and cover up the switch there. I can probably just take it out and hide it back inside there whilst it's being painted. Let me take care of these guys, and then we'll all meet together. See, here are the posts. I'm going to leave these metallic. I do need to clean the paint off of them, but I'm just going to leave these as metal. They're not hurting anybody the way they are. Well, the ships are back inside from being clear coated outdoors, and I am pleased to announce that they are the same color that they were when I took them outside to spray them. So yay, we are back in forward momentum. So let's get the accoutrements out for the decaling, and we're going to go ahead and, well, we're going to let these tops dry for a good long while, and then we're going to flip them over. They're dry to the touch now, but I'm going to let them sit for a little bit, and then we are going to flip them over and start decaling the undersides. So I've got the decal sheets for both out, and I need to get my accoutrements, the paper towels, the plate of warm water, that sort of thing, and get everything ready so that I can start assembly line decaling. And I have to decide how detailed I'm going to get. I will put the horseshoes around the phaser strips. I don't know if I'm going to go so far as to put all of those interstitial phaser strip decals down. Probably won't. And there's some just little black dots and circles that I'm not going to use. I will use the decals. I'll obviously use all the pennant markings and the docking rings and the sensor pad, all of that stuff. But when we get down to those tiny things, I will probably give them a miss. So let's get, actually I need to run out and put some paint on those bases, and then we'll come back and get to work on the decaling. And we're off. I've decided to go with just one at a time rather than trying to put them simultaneously. I think we're going to learn more stuff from putting the first one down than we can. The second one will go quicker, but I think just having two sets of decals out here is going to be unnecessarily confusing. So the first ones are down, these transporter emitters, and we're just going to work from the front Actually, I'm kind of working from the center out. That way I'm not, stepping over myself. But, there's no rhyme or reason. I can pretend all day long that I've got a method to these. But basically, I'm just cutting them off the sheet and sticking them down. Trying to get this general area done first. And then I'll move backwards and do the back side of it. And then I'll flip it. Or then I'll do the other one. But until I get the hang of getting in the groove of doing these decals, I'm just going to take them as they go. Now, I did cut the sheet up into much smaller parts only because it's easier to handle that way, and you have to get some of them that you want to use first are the ones that are in the middle of the sheet, so it's better just to cut the sheet into logical chunks before you start. I must give a rousing thumbs up. A rousing thumbs up to the fine people at Round 2 on these phaser strip decals. It has, in the past, it has always seemed to me that the inside of the horseshoe, see that how that's a horseshoe there? That inside of that horseshoe, the carrier film, was never cut out or cut out nearly enough. You always had to end up going in and trimming it out. Somebody is paying attention at Round 2 on these decal sheets because the horseshoes are going around the end of the phaser strips just perfectly. There is a knot there. I was dreading. Can't say I was looking forward to it. I was dreading having to go in there with a tiny pair of scissors and snip out the inside of those horseshoes, and they have done fixed themselves. So good for them. Okay, I couldn't go this long without finding something wrong with the instructions from a Round 2 kit. I know it becomes a joke after a while. Something that needs to be pointed out, though. They have got the placement for the decals that go over the landing gear. If you're not going to use the landing gear, there are little plugs that go in where the landing gear come out, and that's where the decal should go. But they've got them further back. They're calling for those decals to be to the right and left of this. To the right and left of this central piece here. They actually need to be up here. So look where the little plug insert goes for the landing gear, and put your decal over that, not down here where they're asking you to put them. They ask you to put them here. They should be up further. They should be closer to the nose. So just keep that in mind. And a lot of the detail painting, or the little color that you would expect to put on this kit, is actually handled by the decals. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff to paint, like the phaser strips and whatnot. But when you think the ship is dull and doesn't have a lot of detail to it, wait till you start putting some of these decals down. Well, I know the red stripes are obvious. Those are on every single starship. That's what adds that pop of color. But there are more areas than just that are handled by decals on this kit. Now, there is a tiny Voyager name that goes here, but honestly, I'm going to put it on there, but I question the need for it, because if you're on the ship, you know what the name of it is. I'm presuming that you would want to have the name on the fantail, so that if you're docking with the ship, you know what ship you're docking with. But this really doesn't suit any purpose. So there we go. Okay, we've got the belly of the beast done. This is the first Voyager. I've done everything but the little red hash lines that go along those phaser strip lines. They are these bits right here. I haven't put any of those down. I've got all of the belly markings down, and the fantail markings, and the lifeboats here, and the tractor emitters, and all that is down. These nice pennants are down. They went down real nicely. So we're going to put that aside. We're going to do the same thing to the other ship now. And by the time we get the other ship done, we should be able to flip this one over and do the top. We'll see. Okay, we're at the end of the day. We're at a natural stopping point. We've got all the decals, save the tiny 2 pixel wide dots that I'm still not sold on putting down anyway. We've got everything done on the bottoms of these 2 Voyagers, and it's a natural place to stop. All of these, of course, have got to dry, they've got to cure, they've got to heal, they've got to make themselves happy with where they're living. We can pick this up tomorrow. Actually, I'll work over the weekend. This is the last day of the work week, so I'll get this video chopped together and posted tonight, and then I'm going to continue on with the decaling, and we'll do a little short video at the beginning of next week, just finishing up with what we've got here. But I think you can see we are miles further down the road than we were just this morning when I started. And, oops, sorry, let me get the visors off, because working with all those tiny decals, oh man. But that's going to be where we're closing up for the week. Ironically, I would have been done. I am as far behind now from being done as the time I wasted with the wrong color and having to repaint everything. If that had never happened, I would be done and we would be celebrating now. So my timing was right. It just, except for the unforeseen circumstances, we didn't get finished. But I think you'll agree that it was worth it to repaint these, given the color they are now and given the color that they were. So until the next time I put a video up, which will be, like I said, probably a Tuesday next week, just finishing up, and then I haven't even started any of the window work yet, which is in one case painting in all of the windows with the accent panel lines, and in the other case scratching off all the windows. That could be a day's work in and of itself. So we're going to find out how long that's going to take. That's going to be the final video that goes up next week. So until then, until the hanging on, I'll leave you on a cliffhanger. The thrilling conclusion will come next week. Until then, you be good to each other. Be safe, be smart, be back next time.